This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
Have you ever caught yourself scrolling and then realising you haven't held a physical game in a while? Well, this seems particularly common with a lot of gamers at the moment, and a lot of people argue that it's this shift in consumer habits and the way we shop for games that has now led to the possibility of the PS6 being digital only, and why we see this constant distance from making physical games. Let's face it, there is a lot of convenience for just being able to load up to the online store and buy a digital game, and within seconds you can download it or enter a code through PlayStation or Xbox. The question has always been though, do you actually own these digital versions of the game you are buying? And the complicated truth is, no you don't, and in actual fact you only own the license to play the game, often with certain conditions that could stop you being able to play the game in the future. This is why many argue if we don't stop this digital trend, we could be left without physical games, giving Sony and Microsoft a lot more control over games, and we might lose out on many relics of the past. Around the PS4 era, we saw the shift to digital only, and although we didn't see it at the time, it has since led to a lot of us now getting games primarily online, often at a discount without having to go to stores in real life or borrow games from friends. A lot of businesses such as CEX, Game, and GameStop have thrived in the past on the resellability of physical games, and you being able to trade in your old games to get credits or money to buy something new. With companies like Game a shadow of their former selves, these companies are in real danger of losing large portions of what keeps their businesses running should PlayStation and Xbox pull the plug fully on physical games. You also lose the option to borrow games from your friends, which in the past has been a much easier way to try out games you wouldn't normally have got the chance to play. Sadly, lately we've also seen the rise in single players requiring an internet connection, meaning if you are on the go and in an area which might not have the fastest speeds for you to be online, your favourite single players are behind a wall with no way to get around. This has received tons of criticism online, and rightly so, as in the past if you hadn't had access to good and reliable internet, that was fine. You could just boot up your favourite single player and you were back gaming. Now, although internet worldwide is getting better and a lot more consumers are getting access to faster and reliable speeds, with both Sony and Microsoft servers also getting better than they used to be, it still isn't concrete and it never will be. So if one day the worst happens and many found themselves offline and we continue to see this online requirement plus digital only, then a lot of gamers will be not able to play on their consoles, which will create the start of a disconnect between consumer and the brand. Former CEO Shawn Layden has recently spoke about the PS6 being digital only and, quote, say Sony would have a hard time at making a digital only console. He's bang on here as well, as we sadly saw the PS5 Pro when it was released. It was digital only with the option to buy a disc drive at a substantial added cost, and a lot of these disc drives were later sold out in many stores, including PlayStation themselves, which just proves there is still a huge demand for disc games. Whilst I don't personally see the PS6 being digital only, I do see the same thing which happened with the PS5 Pro happening to the PS6, and things like PlayStation disc drive bundles like we saw on Amazon becoming more common as Sony look to try and get every penny out of their consumers. Another issue if the PS6 was digital only comes down to the backwards compatibility, which is a huge selling point to gamers at the moment, and if players had a lot of PS4 and PS5 disc games, how would they then be able to play these on the PS6 if it was digital only without having to buy them again? Whilst digital itself might have a few positives, I do believe every positive you could argue gets outweighed by every negative, and I would dread the day that we as gamers limited to an age where the only way to play your favourite games and titles is by buying them digital with no physical copy.